It's a great day to wear the orange once again. You are listening to the House of Orange Sports Channel. This is Frank Rock coming at you. Go talk some basketball right now. As Tennessee didn't get to do the video yesterday, as some of you follow along out of town, not able to do that yesterday. But back in the saddle again today. Tennessee went up, and I thought it was an impressive 77-55 victory over Louisville yesterday. It was a road game. It was one where they were going all out with the whiteout. Louisville with basically a brand new basketball team with a new coach with 12 new players coming in. You know, they wanted that one. They wanted that one to kind of send a message that their program was on the right track. But this Tennessee team, they come out of the gates. They got out early and they never looked back. They took care of business. That was a business-like approach. And that was a team, some people's like, yeah, you know, after Gardner-Webb, they looked okay, but there's still some questions here. And you got to think there's going to be some growing pains along the way. You're trying to incorporate 3 transfers right now. Darling Stone Dubard still not playing. All I've seen it termed as is personal issues. So I don't know if he's in the doghouse. I don't know I haven't really seen anyone elaborate on it. So I'm not going to, sit here and speculate. I don't know. Hopefully he gets things going and he's back in the lineup because I think Tennessee's going to need him depth purposes this year. But after 2 games this week, one thing that stands out to me, and it's always going to stand out with Tennessee, is the defense. I mean, you're looking at these defensive statistics through 2 games again. They're holding opponents to just below 35% field goals. They're holding them to just below 26% on 3-point field goals as well. And then the rebounding game, what surprised me against Gardner-Webb was they were actually out-rebounded in that game. But, man, they bounced back yesterday in a big way. And they out-rebounded Louisville yesterday. Let me get it pulled back up here. 40-26. That is a huge, huge difference in that game. And in terms of what they did, I mean, Tennessee shot 57% from field goals or 4 field goals. 53% from field goal range. And it was a game they only took 19 threes. They were very efficient in what they did. Didn't force it along the way, 40-26 in rebounds. They actually Louisville beat them in offensive rebounds, but on the defensive boards, Tennessee had 28 rebounds. Second chance points, Tennessee had 15 on that as well. Points in the paint, Tennessee dominated 40 points to 10. And then 20 points off of 20 turnovers yesterday. Tennessee had 15 turnovers, 11 of them from Zakai Ziegler. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the defense is going to stand out with this team. What they're going to do, with Gardner-Webb. Gardner-Webb got it down to, close to 10 late. To me, it wasn't anything that was concerning. They went on a run. Once their guy, they had a chance to cut to single digits. He stepped on the out-of-bounds line. It was kind of over after that. It was a game with Tennessee. I thought they were good, but I thought they had things to work on. Yesterday, pretty dang efficient performance yesterday in what they did. And then, this one may surprise you. So the efficiency rating, I like a lot of these metrics for basketball. If you listen to me here, I use plus minus. I use the efficiency ratings as well. Now, plus minus, some of those metrics will differ from efficiency, and plus minus, those will differ. But through 2 games, and actually both games in general. So the efficiency rating, so that's a statistical category, measures a player's overall value. It's a composite of offensive and defensive contribution: points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, and shot attempts. This one may surprise you. It may not. If you've watched the first 2 games, you're probably not real surprised by it. But through the first 2 games, your efficiency leader in both games was Jordan Gainey. And he had an efficiency against Gardner-Webb of 20 with 16 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He had an efficiency yesterday of 14 with 9 points, 4 boards, 4 assists on the game. Now, I said the efficiency and the plus minus do differ because Gainey's plus minus yesterday was just 2 on it. And plus minus refers to when, some of you may be familiar with it. If you're not, plus minus is basically how the team performed when that player was on the court versus when they were on the bench. Sometimes that rating can be skewed one way or another depending on team performance. You see it in losses sometimes. a guy may play lights out, but yet his plus minus is really low just due to the performance of the team. And I think you look at Gardner Webb the other night, if you would look at their statistics, their guard, who I thought was excellent, Simmons, I mean, he had 22 points on the game, yet he was minus 13 for the night. That's why I say it's a little skewed, because I don't think that performance reflects how he played. He played an excellent game that night. But, looking at the efficiency ratings, again, you look at it yesterday, plus minus. Zakai Ziegler, 19 points, 7 assists, 11 turnovers. He was still plus minus 26 while he was on the court. So he still had a very positive impact on the game. He had 3 steals. He had the 1 block. Again, the thing with him, man, he's got 16 assists to 15 turnovers on the year. That is way, way too much for your point guard. And that is a concern to me. You get on down the line with some maybe tougher teams you get into when you play up at Madison Square Garden, when you play Illinois later on the road. You play some of these, better teams, Baylor or St. John's. You play Virginia later on. You get into a turnover happy, and I thought it was bad against Indiana too. Ziegler's got to fix the turnover stuff. If you can't, Barnes, this is one. Barnes has got to hold him accountable with that. Those have to be fixed. That's a big pet peeve. That's way too many turnovers. That's 7.5 turnovers per game. Way too much when you're supposedly have one of the best point guards in college basketball. Chaz Lanier, as we can see coming in through 2 games, this dude can shoot. I was reading about, it was on 24/7, that I think it was Ben McKee said that Rick Barnes in his article on it went, I guess he kind of challenged Lanier on Friday. Really, I don't know what that really meant, but basically challenged for him to do more. He wanted to see him more driving the basket. And what was it, second or third possession? Lanier's driving, trying to dunk. That's one thing I want to see out of these guys. That was one thing I liked out Dalton last year. You would get those games. He would drive. He would make things happen. It was always a pet peeve of mine with Josiah Jordan-James that I thought his game was tailor-made for driving to the basket, yet he wanted to be a set-up shooter outside a lot. We're seeing guys drive more, like Gainey is getting to the basket more. Ziegler, I'd like to see him drive and kick a little bit more. But Lanier, the fact he's doing that, Lanier can shoot. I mean, he can shoot. We're already seeing it through the first couple games. I mean, right now he's shooting 58% from three-point range. He's shooting 52% overall. 7 out of 12 from three-point range, 18.5 points per game. This guy's the real deal shooting the basketball, and you can see it already. When he gets in the zone, he's going to be able to rock and roll with it as well. This dude was a big pickup. It was one I was on for months, going back and forth, the importance of that pickup. This is probably the closest thing to Dalton Connect that you're going to have in terms of Chaz Lanier. Do I expect him to be Connect? I don't, but I do expect, he's going to have some of those big point games, especially when they get into those games. I'm curious to see when they have a closer game, who's that guy? Who wants it? Dalton Connect wanted it last year. Is it going to be Chaz Lanier? Does he have that same mentality in him that a Dalton Connect does? Questions. What about Jordan Gainey? Does he maintain along the way? Does he become that guy? I'll tell you, man, any of you that have listened to me, you know my opinion on this. I love Jamiah Mashack. This dude does it all. He's 3 out of 6 in three-pointers. You could tell he worked on his shot over the offseason. I stated it a lot of times last year. I said, if this guy, if his game was offense more, I think he could really score close to 15 points per game. A lot of times he does the dirty work on the team. Any defensive player rankings in the country that does not have Jamiah Mashack ranked number 1 is invalid. And I know there's guys who can play defense around the country. There's not a better defensive player in college basketball than Jamiah Mashack. I say it here numerous times. Ask Dalton Connect if you want to know how good defensively Jamiah Mashack is. They went at it head-to-head all the time last year, and he credited Mashack with help making him better. Iron sharpened iron in that regard. But through 2 games with Mashack yesterday, plus minus 24, he had 3 points, He only took 4 shots. He hit he hit 1 out of 2 threes, 7 rebounds. Did have 2 turnovers, but he had 3 steals. And a lot of times his defensive presence maybe doesn't show out in steals and blocks. It's his ability to be physical. It's his ability to shut down guys from driving to the basket. There's not many people that's going to outmuscle Jamiah Mashack. This dude's a stud. I'm telling you, he is an absolute stud. He's evolved through and through. Love what this dude brings to the court. I mentioned Ziegler and the turnovers. I think that'll fix itself. But I think that's what you're going to see out of him. You're going to see those nights he's going to get hot. I mean, he got hot later yesterday in the second half and really did some good things, but he was cold early. That's kind of been Jamiah Mashack, or I'm sorry, Zakai Ziegler, since we've been there. Ziegler can shoot. He can be streaky as well. We've seen it. We saw it against Indiana where he struggled shooting. We saw it the other night against Gardner-Webb where he went 3 out of 10, 0 out of 6 from three-point range. Yesterday against Louisville shooting, 7 out of 13, 4 out of 7, but he was 1 out of 3-point line. I think, what you've seen up to this point in Zakai Ziegler's career, you know what you're getting. There's not going to be a drastic where he's all of a sudden going to be a consistent over 50% shooter from three-point range. He's not going to be that 80 to 90% free throw shooter either. He'll have nights that he is, but he'll have nights where he's 1 for 3. Nights, it's who he is at this point. And I don't mean that negatively in any way. He's a great Vol, heck of a point guard, but there are those things on certain nights that you're going to have as well. Again, a big positive to me yesterday was how Tennessee bounced back in the rebound column. Again, they got out rebounded against, let me pull that box, against Gardner-Webb the other night. They were out rebounded 32-29. Not a big difference, but still, yet that was something Rick Barnes and that staff was going to put a big emphasis on because they like to win the rebound battle. Obviously, who doesn't? But I'm impressed by the way they bounced back, dominated the rebounds yesterday, really dominated Louisville from start to finish yesterday. And, it's a Power 5 team. It's an ACC team. Anytime you can go on the road with that. And the projections I've seen for Louisville are really pretty drastically different. I talked about them the other night. I cannot remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but it was from SI.com on a Louisville preview. He had Louisville around 90th or so in the nation, and he picked them to go 16-15. Wasn't very high on them. Others I saw had them predicted to finish 4th in the ACC. I think that's a tall task, and depending on what Louisville does, new coach, a brand new, entirely different team, they've got a long way ahead of them. But we'll see how Louisville does. But Tennessee as well. Things you got to look for. Felix Okpara against Gardner-Webb the other night. His stats were he was out a little bit. He was just ±1, but he had 2 points, 9 rebounds, had the 4 personal fouls that kept him in foul trouble, 1 block. Yesterday, he went for 10 points, 6 rebounds. His turnovers, he has 5 through 2 games. I'd like to see that down a little bit, but we'll see on that. And he had the 1 block. So I think you'll see more blocks out of him moving forward. He was ±25 yesterday, so a big change in that regard. The one guy I'm still high on, and I think could have possibly the biggest ceiling on the team, but he keeps getting in foul trouble through 2 games, is Igor Milicic Jr. Not a lot so far, and that's due to not a lot of minutes. Against Gardner-Webb, he played 17 minutes. He had 8 points. He was ±3. Yesterday, he only played 12 minutes. 7 points, ±14. 1 out of 1. I'm telling you, Igor Milicic Jr., if he can stay out of foul trouble, he gets in a groove here, he may have the highest ceiling on this team right now. I go with him and possibly Cam Carr. Of course, Cam Carr is not playing the minutes, but if I look at highest ceilings, I almost go with those two. And I don't take away from Lanier, but Lanier can score. What's the other things he can do? Milicic Jr. can do it all. Obviously, he can foul too. So he's got to fix those fouls moving forward. But I'm telling you, there's going to be some games where Igor Milicic Jr. is going to be big time. And you're going to see that potential that I keep talking about over and over with this team. And based on what I'm seeing here through week number 1, most improved player on this team, it's not even close to me, is Cade Phillips. This dude didn't play a lot last year. One of the things I saw in the offseason is he went to the coaches and wanted to become a better basketball player. He was a guy who played 2 sports in high school coming in. He went in, he transformed his body. He got these coaches on how to become a better basketball player, and you're seeing those signs of it so far. Against Gardner-Webb, he had 7 points. He had 4 rebounds. He had 2 assists, no turnovers, plus minus 14 in that game. Against Louisville yesterday, he went for 6 points, 6 rebounds, no turnovers, 1 block, 21 minutes, plus minus 3. But again, that category can be skewed depending on your team's performance at the time. But if, based on what I've seen so far, and I'm curious to see more JP Estrella, he is injured right now. I think you got to like what you've seen out of Cade Phillips. And can he maintain? That's going to be the big thing going forward with this team. Can these guys continue on the way they are? The Jordan Gainey, who's been the most efficient so far. Jamiah Mashack, who, again, he does it all. He does it all on this team. Can Lanier continue his hot shooting? Big questions for me. How does Tennessee bounce back? They play Montana Wednesday, and then they play Austin Peay next Sunday, who Austin Peay, let's see, they beat – let me look on here who it was they beat the other night. They beat a pretty good program. They I should have had this pulled up already. They beat – where are we at here? Butler. They beat Butler the other night in Indianapolis. So that's a pretty strong win for Austin Peay. So Tennessee has Montana Wednesday night, Austin Peay next Sunday at 3 o'clock. I'll be live with you after each of them. Be live with you moving forward. Make sure you check out the House of Orange Basketball, as we're pretty consistent. We're pretty thorough with this. When you get those post-game shows, this is the place you're going to want to be for Tennessee basketball along the way. I'm going to wrap up on that one. I did the next, talking about Tennessee-Mississippi State game this morning. Later this evening, I'm going to record a video. I went to the Fall World Series Game 2 Friday night. I want to record some thoughts and observations I've seen there with baseball as well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. This is Frank. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. Have a great rest of your day. Last but most certainly not least, go Vols.